Hello and welcome to episode number 5 of the Expert Table Tennis Podcast. My name is Ben Larcombe, and on today's show I'm joined by Daniel Ives, the founder of TableTennisDaily, and we'll be talking about his trip to China and some of the lessons that he learnt from looking at the whole structure of table tennis out there and basically how they are able to produce so many top level players year after year after year. So I hope you enjoy the show. This is part 1. It's split into 2 parts because the interview was so good I just couldn't cut it down to half an hour. The next one will be released in a week's time. But for now, this is part 1 of the interview with Daniel Ives. I hope you enjoy it. So today on the podcast, I'm joined by Daniel Ives, who is the founder of the website Table Tennis Daily, which I guess is almost like the online home of table tennis now. So hi Dan, welcome to the show.
Hi Ben, thanks very much for having me here.
It's great to have you on. You've actually been requested by some listeners, so
awesome.
I send out a thing asking who they'd like to have, and you're one of the most popular ones.
Thank you.
Now, a lot of people have seen the video you did with Steiger, where you went over to China kind of to look at how table tennis works over there. I wanted to talk to you in particular about that today. And firstly, kind of how did that all come about? How did you get the chance to go over there?
Yeah, I think firstly the idea was thought of by the crew at Steiger, and they're very innovative, and came up with an idea and said, I think it'd be a very good idea for a few of the Steiger guys to go out there and go to all the different sectors of China table tennis. They asked me to come along and just said they thought it'd be a really, really good idea to do some recording with them and blog it on my website. Yeah, that's what we did, and it went from there, and it was just such an amazing experience, and it was just brilliant.
And that was in January, so kind of like 5-6 months ago.
Yeah.
And do you have some kind of deal with Steiger? Why did they go to you?
I think we've had quite a long-term relationship for 3-4 years, and I've just helped with promoting some of their products on YouTube, and it's just really gone from there. Really, nothing too wild. It's just I'm quite fortunate, actually, very lucky. I thanked them a lot because it's actually something I've always wanted to do on my list. Go to China and just see what's going on out there. When I was a player before, when I was coaching about 10 years ago, it's just my dream to go out into China and just train for a few weeks out there, which I recommend to everyone because it's such an experience. And it's actually changed my mindset on table tennis. I used to think that the top guys, Ma Long, Zhang Jike, were extremely talented, but when you go watch what they're training like at the age of 6, even 5, you start to realise that, hang on a second, it's the practice that's going on and not the talent,
Yeah, sure. And that's definitely something that I want to go and do. Yeah. And that's why I want to talk to you in this interview, kind of particularly about all of that Chinese structure.
Yeah.
So when you were at the airport, kind of on your way home from that trip, you brought out 2 points. You said one, that you really liked the pathway that they have that kind of leads kids from a young age towards the top of that pyramid. Yeah. And you also liked the way that they created this really high performance environment at every level.
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk to you a bit more about that. Do you have anything to say before we get started?
Yeah, I think I guess it's almost like a pyramid structure, right? The high performance is in every single level. I played against a 6-year-old who was the number 1 in China under 7s, and he was like an 18-year-old European player at the top of his game. Just he trained so hard, and as I was saying, the high performance factor in any single place we went into, even in the local club, and there was a lot of 60, 70-year-olds playing, the competitiveness was so high, and again the level was so high due to that, and the numbers. I think the numbers helped so much, and it was that was. I think what I put it down to is how they structured that high performance environment from every single section and age group.
Nice. Well, I'd love to start with that, the kind of recreational club that you went to with the older players. Kind of how did that compare to the recreational clubs in the UK?
Yeah, good shout. Someone asked me that the other day who I'm coaching, actually, and it's a good question. I think what's different is, what's quite similar is they enjoy it. It's that we had such a good time. It was hilarious, actually. Got some good videos I need to upload to show some people when I was in the local club in Beijing, and the enjoyment factor is really high. So they're all, it's such a great community environment for them. When we arrived, initially there was, about 16 tables, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Around 60 plus people all playing. and like, there was about 10 people on each table waiting for it, to go on the table. It was just so popular. And I think it was, what's different is it was just the intensity and how much. Yeah, I think they just enjoyed it so much. And yeah, you know what I mean. Like when I go to my local club here in Bristol, everyone loved it and it's great fun. But these guys are doing it 2 hours every single night. Whereas in Bristol,
Okay.
I think they have 2 sessions a week of 1 hour. So it's quite difficult access. But this club's open, I think, 24/7 in Beijing. I think the guy who runs it, he just opens it whenever, and you know what I mean. So the accessibility for everyone there, they're just there all the time. So that's another big difference is the availability of practice.
And like, were they doing coaching sessions? Was there a coach going
Good
around, or
shout.
was it just
No,
free play?
there was. We played like a Europe versus China match, and so around 8 of the tables it was just complete matches from 7 p.m. to about 10. It was relentless. Actually, I was knackered by the end of it, and they were still
Right.
buzzing by 10 p.m. And but the other end of the hall, there was a little bit of coaching and practice going on, but not so much, not as much as I thought actually. And that's one thing I noticed. I was going to say throughout the interview, when I was in even the 7-year-olds, the amount of individual attention on coaching wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be. It was a lot of just relentless practice, and I think because they're all at similar levels, and they've got that motivation to keep fighting hard in the practice hall, the improvement happens naturally almost. The coaches just
Okay.
structure it and make sure that the environment's there for them, but then yeah, the improvement it comes from just through the practice and the hard work and the deliberate practice, I guess.
And kind of final question about this recreational club. You've spoken about how they start at a young age at schools and
Yeah.
things. Were the players at these clubs kind of the adult players?
Yeah, yeah.
Did they used to play when they were kids, or had they kind of picked it up later in life?
I think, to be honest, I didn't ask them, and we tried to interview the manager there, but he was really busy, I guess, sorting out everyone at the club. But I think I think they've just played a lot. I think they've just been playing since a young kid, and they've just keep going through the system, playing the league, playing the Beijing League, like the competitive local Beijing League. I think a lot of
Okay.
the kids, they go to the provinces or the schools. I did hear from a couple of people on not a bit of a negative side of things, is that table tennis is dropping quite an alarming rate around the 18 to 21-year-olds. I think it's a bit like the UK as well. They
Yeah.
start to leave school, they go to college, go to uni, and then it's really hard for them to carry on that practice. 1 minute they're training 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and the next minute it just completely stops. And then they come back into sport 20 years later, which is quite a lot of adults doing that at the moment in the UK. But I think in China, because of the availability and obviously they can just go and play whenever they want with their friends, that I think those guys have been in it for life.
Sure.
I think that local Beige club, I think 90% of them were over the age of 50, 40, 50, and
And been playing for
yeah, just
years.
playing for years, and they were so good as well. I barely won a match. It was so
Huh.
difficult, and the rubbers they're using, pimples, long pimples, anti-spin. It was just crazy, but at a good level. It weren't just anti-spin; it was using it effectively,
Yeah.
like putting me wide forehand, wide backhand within seconds, punching it. Like it was funny, but great stuff.
Okay, so now kind of moving on to the schools, which I think is something that kind of European American players really, when they think of Chinese table tennis, they get this picture of loads of young kids kind of training really hard at schools, which
Yeah,
seems strange to us.
yeah.
But how do those schools work? Like, do they have trials for 5-year-olds to get into them?
Yes,
Like,
great
how
question.
does it start?
I interviewed the actual coach of the school we went to. So we went to I always forget his name. It's something like Hey Shah or something. John Dennis is actually running a camp there this September, I think, or August. So if anyone's looking out to go there,
Okay.
get in contact with John Dennison. But it's an amazing club. It's where Marlon came from, Zhang Yining, Wang Tao, a couple of others. And yeah, so I asked the coach, how these kids progress and how do you select them? And he was saying that they have school PE clubs where the kids play then, and then they go. So they have this main table tennis club in the school, which has, I don't know, 30 tables with all the coaches there and etc. And they have different age categories. So yes, they come from the PE classes and then go into that if they make it at a certain level. If they're
Okay.
keen, so they're looking for ones who are hardworking, who actually love the game tables and have the passion. And then so he said you've got around 80 to 100 per age group, And then he said only 4 to 5 actually make it into the province team as well, which I couldn't believe. So out of all these kids who
Wow.
looked amazing in the hall, I don't know how accurate this interview was because we had a translator, uh, but it was pretty accurate. And he was saying, yeah, 4 to 5 kids per year will go into the province team. So this school was at in Beijing. We'll have to get the name later, Ben. So there was around 80 to 100 kids in the year group we was looking at, and
When you say year group, do you
yeah,
mean they're all the same age?
yeah, they're all well.
Okay.
So there, so good shout. So in this hall, there's 3 lines. So one had around the 6, 7, 8 year olds. The other one had 8, 9, 10, and the end corner had the 12 year olds. So I think those
Okay.
12 year olds were the ones who were just tipping off going to the province team, um, and then those ones that go to the province are then in that same sort of setup with Marlong and that. You know, Marlong's in the Beijing province at the moment
Yeah.
for the Super League. So these kids were playing the under 16 team for the Beijing Super League for the team. So yeah, they're the ones that qualify. So they're all training basically to get into that team. You know, it's
So the school is kind of like from age
si-
6 to
yeah,
12,
yeah.
roughly.
I would say even young, maybe 5. There were a couple of really young kids. About there was a few 6 year olds, around 10 of them, and they were at an incredible level, and they were 6. Uh, and obviously, by the time they get to 12, I'd say, yeah, pretty much most of them. Imagine how competitive it would be for them to qualify into the Beijing province team. Or there's other, what the coach said to me was as well, is because because this is one of the best schools. He said all the kids around China aim to get into this school and their parents fund them to get into this school. And
Okay.
he said that if they don't make the Beijing province team, they'll probably make another province team and they'll move to there.
So some schools are better than others.
Yeah, yeah. I think the Beijing one is one of the best. And
And is this one just got a particularly good coach or something? Like, what is it that makes it so good?
well, there was around, I think there's around 6 coaches there, and one of the coaches, he's worked with Marlon and stuff before. Obviously, when Marlon was there, so I think it's got a very good name and recognition. I mean, when you go to the club, there's huge photos. There's like this thing on the wall. It's all in Chinese, like a chalkboard, and it says Marlon, Ding Ning. So it's showing who's came from that club. So obviously, people know in China that okay, this club's made in Ding Ning. It's made Marlon. I want to go to this club. So the parents are trying to get their kids to go there. And he said it's very competitive just to get into it at the age of 6, 7.
And what kind of training are they doing as kind of 6, 7 year olds when they're at this club?
Yeah, when I was there, I was watching. I try and do it a lot, even when I went to the national centre as well. I was seeing what exercise are they doing, and it's very simple stuff. For example, yeah, the left-handed kid who I actually played a match against, which was
This is 6 year
yeah,
old.
this 6 year old. He was just doing like forehand wide, forehand middle, forehand wide into like the kid's backhand block for around 10 minutes, and he was doing it for 10 minutes, at good consistency, top of the bounce, and his focus was crazy, and he was running along, always picking up a ball, running back, and the coach would just be walking about, and if there's any slacking, he would shout to him or walk over every now and then, say something little, walk away. But a lot of the individual attention came from the multiple area in the corner where there was 2 coaches and a young coach, probably around 25, and the other coach was around 50, and they were doing multiple. And working on a lot of the kids' technique then, but those kids were around 9 to 10, 11-year-olds.
Okay.
But yeah, the 6-year-olds were just practicing with each other. But the level of the exercise, he's doing 2-point forehand, and the kid blocking for him, the blocking was so good. It's incredible. So the rallies were lasted a long time. The ball placement was good. But what I couldn't get over was how good their blocking was. I think it's quite an important thing, isn't it? You say you go to a training camp and you have a practice. You want to make sure that the opponent can block for you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So out there, I think even if a 20-year-old table tennis player in the UK went to China and knocked with the 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, even the 6-year-old, they're going to get a good practice. That's how good the blocking is, and yeah, it's amazing. So obviously that level of practice per kid is just really, really good.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like that because let's say they start at 4 or 5, they get the basics quickly, and then straight away they've got that focus to improve it, because if they don't, they get kicked out, so they have to improve that block. So they're training there and they're really trying hard to keep that ball on the table.
So you just spoke about kind of getting kicked out.
Yeah,
How does that work? Like,
yeah,
I assume if you get to kind of 12
yeah,
and you're not good enough to go into the province, you're kind of just let go. But
yeah.
can you get kicked out earlier as well?
Yeah, well, I think the province, those guys who actually make it into that province team, they're exceptional quality, and they're the ones who have persevered and maybe not got the injuries and made it. But the other ones, they still keep playing. They play the local divisions, which are really strong, and it just means they're not in the top. I'm not 100% sure how their league structure works, but they will still play.
There's still plenty of table
Yeah,
tennis
yeah. I
teams.
just
Yeah.
think that the province team is the best under 16 or under 12 team within Beijing. But then the other kids will maybe join the Division One team or the lower league stuff, which is still very,
Cool.
very good. But yeah, and the ones
I
and so yeah about getting kicked out.
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
so there was these 7 year olds on multiple table at one point, and the coach was crazy. He was doing short backspin into the kid's backhand, and the kid was stepping in doing the flick, like the Fanjin Dong reverse flick,
Yeah.
and it was unbelievable quality. And I can't recall him missing any, and he didn't miss any at all. And then this kid was going around to him, whacking balls at the kid, going crazy. And come on, do this, going back, redoing the backspin, and flicking. And I was just thinking, wow, it was such high intensity, and there were kids who were put on the bench, who didn't do it correctly and weren't able to play, and they were just sitting there watching
Right.
from the coach, kicking them off. So whether getting kicked out or not, I don't know. But I saw a lot of sitting out stuff, or the kids not being able to play and watching the other kids playing. Um,
So it's quite a harsh environment.
yeah, it was quite harsh for some areas. I think some of the coaches have got a good. I think it's like good cop, bad cop in there. There were some coaches who were very, very strict, and others who were really, really nice. And I could just tell that straight away by the way they were giving feedback to the kids. I could
Okay.
see some kids were like, "Oh God, there's that coach who's coming over to me," whereas the other coach was very nice, and so they probably got a nice little way of doing that. So the kids don't just become completely disrespondent and don't want to play at all. I guess they
Hmm.
have a good balance with their coaching structure. Yeah,
So if they do make it from the school to
yeah,
the province, at that point, are they pretty much full-time table tennis players, or are they still doing academic stuff as well?
yeah. I think pretty much it's full time, but they will have some academic stuff. I know in the one that we was in the 6 to 12, they're at school as well. I think it's around 4 hours or something, 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
The training is 2 hours in the morning, I think, and 2 hours in the evening. And then they have some midday stuff, like lunchtime stuff. But the province one is pretty much full time, but they do studying around it. I'm not sure how intense that is, but I know that table tennis is very intense because we went to the Beijing province team
Yeah.
and they were training there, and wow, that level was like looking at loads of mini Ma Longs. Actually, there was a couple of kids in there who were 12, and they were around top 5 in China. They weren't number one actually, which I thought I was going to see a number one in China under 12, but he was number 4 or 5 ranked in China under 12 from the Beijing province team. And yeah, his forehand, technically was just like Fang Bo and Ma Long, and the backhand. It was so similar, and I was thinking to myself, wow, give him 3 4 years when he's got taller, stronger, he's going to be not much different. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
from a yeah, it's just there was not much difference in it from a technical point of view, and from like a like when you see Marlon Fangbo training, they're very focused and very I don't know, they've got something about them, and these had that as well. It was like a uh, just an incredible focus
Yeah.
and relaxation in the point as well. So you know they're not training hard, but they relax in the point as well at the same time. So they're able to get the net balls back. They're able to adapt quickly in the point, which I think is quite important.
So there's a video of you playing
Yeah,
one of these 12-year-olds that's exceptionally good.
yeah.
Like it looked like he was just serving you off at one
Yeah,
point.
that one. Yeah, he was I think 16, 17. He was right at the top of the team, and yeah, he served me off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there was a 12. I need to upload these videos because in the video series of Steiger, it shows me playing against them, but it'd be good to see the full match, and I'll upload the full matches.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
good.
the one I didn't play a full match against the one who was serving me off. It was just for fun. I asked the 12-year-old if I could try his bat. I just thought it'd be interesting to see what he's using and just give it a quick go because he was hitting rockets. So I just tried it and see what happened. And But yeah, so he started serving to me, right? And it was penhold, and I could not read a thing. It was either a complete kicker, top spinning, flying in the air, or heavy backspin. The variation was it was so difficult. It was a bit like Gavin Rumgay serves, but penhold, and the spin was, probably double. No disrespect to Gavin, no kidding, but like the rotation on the serve, wow. So if you misread it, it's completely gone.
Like, is that something that they really work on at
Good
these
question. I
schools
mean,
and things?
I didn't see much serve practice going on actually at all. Not yeah. That was the one player who had the service with penhold. I think that's probably that was his game. It was his strength, that serve and forehand attack. Because the coach said to me, he has one of the best serves, and in the club he said he has one of the best serves. Because I mentioned about it when we was interviewing him after after I played against him.
Right.
But I played the 12-year-old, and yeah, it was I might as well give away. Yeah, I wasn't going to give away who won because I was going to do a little competition on TTD. But yeah, he beat me 11-3, and it was ridiculous. The way he was reading my serves, the way he was just taking the ball so early, and then at 10-3 down, I give him a mini bat just for fun. I thought, right, you can have this mini bat and see if I can come back and win. And he served. I pushed his backhand, and he just opened up with the backhand. And I missed the point. And that's with a mini bat, and he used it with penhold. But they're glued to a bat, aren't they? It's just it's amazing. But yeah,
So for those that don't know, what kind of level are you roughly in the UK?
nowadays I have no idea. It's really tricky to tell. But when I injured myself in 2009, I was 48 in the men's singles. See, the men's senior rankings.
Yep.
48. But yeah, I was beating a few guys in the top 20, top 15. I think my level was a bit higher than that ranking, but that was when I was just starting to really find my game, and I went to France and was training full time, and I don't know where I'd have got to, but it's okay. It's all right.
So then these kids that are
Yeah.
12, 13, 14 in China, where would they be on
Oh
the
no, that
England men's
12-year-old I
list?
play, I think he'd be. Uh, Great question. 1 second, let me just think.
Because I'm thinking people like Ethan Walsh, who's kind of our best
Yeah,
under 13. I think he's about 200 on the men's list,
yeah. I
roughly.
know this kid is definitely this 12-year-old I played, who's number 4 in China under 12s, is definitely top 7, 8, I'd say.
So that's a big difference,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, huge. Oh, yeah. I'm no disrespect to Ethan. I saw him play at the weekend. He's a brilliant little player, and he'll be very good when he's older because he's got a good little environment around him. But no, this 12-year-old was wow. Just as I said, it's like a mini Ma Long. It's just a smaller, younger version of Fang Ba Ma Long. I don't know.
I mean, it just shows what kind of the top English players are going to have to
Yeah,
compete against in the
yeah,
future.
you're right.
Like,
You're right. I mean, well, think of a 6-year-old in this country. Is there a 6-year-old playing at that level? The 6-year-old I played against. It was 50-50. I don't want to give away who won because I'm going to upload it and people can watch it. But yeah, it was 50-50, and he's 6.
that's incredible, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I didn't give my 100% best. It was a lot of fun in the match as well. It's like I'm not going to go completely wild, but it was just like a good fun match. But he was competing like, I thought that was impossible to get a 6-year-old to be able to do good rallies with you and
Yeah, like how many hours can he physically have played at 6 years old?
that's the thing. Yeah, well, it's a bit like the Japanese guy Tom. I can never pronounce his name, but he's 11, right? And I was talking to John Dennison about him the other day, and how he can be beating people top 50 in the world men's is like crazy because okay, he's 11, so he's probably had maybe 5 years of very good practice from the age of 6. So within 5 years, he's developed all that mental capacity, the technical, physical, and understanding of the game. I just don't understand it really, but again, they're probably training twice or maybe 3 times as much as European players, aren't
Yeah.
they? The 6-year-old is training 4 hours a day at least, so whatever that is a week, and then and in that high performance environment against the same level of players all the time, always at a good level of practice. I remember an interview with Timo Boll when he said he struggled for good practice. This was when he was younger, and I think he used
Yeah.
to go practice with Samsonov. Whereas in China, if Timo Boll was 18 years old, he would have 100 people at his level to practice with every day. You know what I mean? So Timo Boll, if he was in China from the age of 18, obviously Timo Boll is still a world-class player, and he's made it because the German structure is brilliant. But okay, let's just say someone like Matthew Ware when he was 16, 17, if he had that sort of level of practice,
Yeah, there'd be nothing holding him back.
no, it wouldn't be no. Like, and then there'd be so much great league support. He'd have a finance coming in as well. There's a professional league out there. So when they get to 18, they start playing in that professional league. They get income, get sponsors, and they get a bit of recognition for what they're doing, I guess.
Sorry to have to cut things off there. That is the end of part 1. I'll be releasing part 2 of my interview with Dan Ives in a week's time, so watch out for that. There's a slight correction. During the podcast, I said that I thought Ethan Walsh was about 200 in the ranking list. I looked that up after. He's actually 112th. He's gone up a lot recently. So well done to Ethan Walsh. He's clearly putting in the hard work and seeing some results. He's our number 1 under 13 player in England and the current national champion. He won that last weekend as well. But the point I was making was that these kids that are out there in China that Dan was playing against, 12-year-olds that he reckons would be ranked 7, 8, 9 kind of in the England men's list is ridiculous. Like, that's the kind of standard of players like Chris Duran, David Macbeth, Gavin Evans, Craig Howson of Scotland. Like, these are real high-level players, and Dan's basically saying that there are 12-year-olds out there in China who are playing at that level now. So, I mean, that just shows you how strong the level is in China from such a young age. And no wonder they're producing players like Fan Zhendong at 16, 17, breaking onto the international stage and doing so well. So thanks for listening. If you would like to check out all the other episodes, you need to go to experttabletennis.com/podcast. You can find them there, or of course, download at your discretion on iTunes. I will see you in the next episode. Thank you very much. I will see you soon.